Something shifted the moment the league made it official, and inside the Lakers, nobody needed a long explanation to understand the weight of it. Luka Doncic hitting that 16th technical wasn't just another stat line detail. It was the kind of moment that quietly forces a team to adjust on the fly, especially this late in the season when every possession starts to feel heavier. The incident itself, that exchange with Zaire Williams, didn't look like something that would echo this loudly a day later. It was one of those in-game flashes, emotions running high, two competitors not backing down. But for Doncic, the consequence landed differently. That whistle didn't just end a moment. It triggered a rule that leaves no room for interpretation, and now the Lakers have to move forward without one of their central engines, even if only for a night. What's interesting is how quickly the organization tried to push back. The appeal wasn't symbolic. It was a real attempt to keep continuity intact during a stretch where the team has finally found rhythm. But once the league confirmed the decision, that door closed, and now it becomes less about what could have been avoided and more about how this group responds immediately. Monday's game, on paper, gives the Lakers a manageable situation. A team coming in fatigued, dealing with travel, already out of the bigger picture this season. But if you've followed this franchise over the years, you know these are the exact games that test discipline more than talent. Because when expectations say, comfortable win, that's when focus becomes the real challenge. And internally, the message is already clear. This won't be approached casually. LeBron James and Austin Reeves are expected to carry a larger share of the offensive structure, not just in scoring, but in controlling tempo, in making sure the game doesn't drift into something unpredictable. That's where experience matters, and that's where this team leans on its veterans. Right, Lakers pride, if you have supported this team through every era. But the real concern isn't just this one game. It's what this situation represents going forward. With the standings tightening and very little separation between contenders, losing control for even a short stretch can shift everything. Home court advantage, matchups, momentum, all of it can change faster than people expect. And inside the Lakers, there's full awareness of that. There's also a layer to this that goes beyond strategy. Doncic plays with edge. That's part of what makes him who he is on the court. But now the balance becomes critical. One more moment like that, one more technical at the wrong time, and suddenly you're not just talking about a regular season game. You're talking about availability when the stakes are at their highest. At the same time, there's a different energy inside that locker room that hasn't gone unnoticed. The win over Brooklyn carried more than just another mark in the standings. There's a sense of cohesion building, and moments like the one involving Bronny James after the game reflect that. That story about the one-on-one with LeBron, the broken backboard, the reactions from teammates, that's not just entertainment, that's a sign of comfort, of chemistry, of a group that's starting to enjoy playing together at the right time. Bronny's growth is another quiet development that people inside the organization are paying attention to, not in a headline way, but in the details. The minutes he's getting, the trust he's slowly earning, the way he handled that fourth quarter stretch recently, those are the things that start to matter more as rotations tighten. And then there's Austin Reeves, who has become something much more significant than just a secondary option. The way he manipulates defenders, the way he understands spacing, and especially how he draws fouls without forcing the game, that's a skill that changes possessions and, more importantly, stabilizes offense when things start to stall. Comment. The banners tell the story if you believe the history of this franchise still matters today. All of this is happening at a point in the season where nothing is random anymore. Every rotation tweak, every minute adjustment, every decision has intention behind it. And the Lakers are not moving like a team waiting to see what happens. They're moving like a team that understands exactly how narrow the margin has become. The return of Doncic in the following game will bring things back to full strength on paper, but the bigger question is how this moment shapes the approach moving forward, because this wasn't just about one suspension. It was a reminder, one that arrived at a time when there's no space left for unnecessary mistakes. And if you've been around this team long enough, you know how these moments tend to work. They don't just pass, they build into something else. something that usually reveals itself when the pressure rises again. And that next test is already closer than it seems. If you want daily Lakers updates and don't want to miss the next big move, subscribe to the channel right now. What starts to stand out now is how the coaching staff handles the immediate ripple effect of this absence. This isn't just about replacing production, it's about maintaining control of the game when the natural rhythm shifts. Without Doncic on the floor, possessions will look different. Spacing changes, decision-making speeds up in certain moments and slows down in others. That's where discipline becomes everything. LeBron's role in this scenario goes beyond numbers. It becomes about reading the flow before it breaks, about anticipating those stretches where the game can slip away if no one takes command. And there's a quiet expectation that he will set that tone early, not allowing the game to drift into something uncomfortable. That presence has carried this franchise through moments like this before, and internally there's trust that it still does. Reeves, on the other hand, steps into a space that continues to grow around him. Not forced, not rushed, but naturally expanding as the team leans on his ability to create under pressure. What he's been doing this season isn't accidental. It's built on control, on understanding angles, on knowing when to accelerate and when to pull things back. And in a game like this, that balance becomes one of the most important factors on the floor. Around them, the supporting cast isn't being asked to do more than they're capable of, but they are being asked to be sharper. Rotations need to hold. Defensive assignments can't slip. The small details, the ones that often go unnoticed in comfortable wins, suddenly become the difference between keeping control and letting the game turn. Right, La still believes, if you trust, the Lakers can rise when the pressure gets real. There's also something else building here, something that doesn't show up in box scores. When a team goes through a moment like this, even a short one, it forces clarity. Roles become more defined, communication becomes more direct, and the group starts to understand what it can rely on when things aren't ideal. That kind of internal adjustment tends to carry forward, especially with what's coming next on the schedule. Because once this game passes, the level of difficulty rises immediately. And that's where having everyone available again won't be enough on its own. It will be about how quickly this team reconnects its identity, how it responds after being slightly disrupted, how it handles the pressure of games that carry real weight in the standings. Inside the organization, there's no panic, but there is awareness. This stretch is shaping more than positioning. It's shaping trust, defining which combinations hold under pressure, and revealing how prepared this group really is for what's ahead. And those answers don't come in easy games. They come in moments where something is missing, and the team still has to find a way. Comment: never count out the Lake Show if you know this team is always one move away from changing everything. If you've been following closely, this is exactly the type of stretch where things begin to separate. Not in obvious ways, not in headlines, but in how a team carries itself possession after possession. And that's why it becomes even more important to stay locked in on everything that's unfolding here, because the next few games are going to reveal details that won't be easy to ignore. If you want to stay ahead of every shift, every behind-the-scenes development, every adjustment before it becomes obvious to everyone else, this is the moment to make sure you're subscribed. Because what's building around this team right now isn't slowing down, and the next update might not wait for anyone who isn't already paying attention. And as this stretch unfolds, one detail that keeps resurfacing internally is how thin the margin has become between control and chaos in late-game situations. Not because the team lacks talent, but because execution under pressure has started to define outcomes more than anything else. Those final minutes, when every decision carries weight, are where this group is being evaluated most closely. There's a growing sense that the Lakers are being shaped right now, not just tested. These are the kinds of moments that expose habits, that reveal which players can stay composed when possessions slow down and the defense tightens. It's not about highlight plays, it's about reliability, about knowing exactly what you're going to get when the game reaches that point where there's no room for mistakes. Defensively, the focus has quietly intensified. Communication has become sharper, rotations more intentional, and there's a visible effort to eliminate the lapses that earlier in the season would go unpunished. Now, every breakdown feels costly, and that shift in awareness is not accidental. It's being reinforced daily because the understanding inside the building is clear. Offense can carry you for stretches, but structure is what sustains you when everything tightens. At the same time, there's an interesting development in how the bench is being utilized. Minutes are no longer just about rest. They're about maintaining identity. The second unit is being asked to preserve tempo, not just survive it. And when that starts to happen consistently, it changes how the entire game is managed. Right championship standard, if you believe the Lakers should always be chasing the top. There's also attention being paid to something less visible, the emotional control of the group. Not just Doncic, but everyone. The conversations happening behind closed doors are centered on composure, on understanding when to push and when to step back. Because one reaction, one unnecessary moment, can shift availability at the worst possible time, and that's a risk this team can't afford to carry into the final stretch. What's becoming clear is that this isn't just about getting through games anymore. It's about building something that holds under playoff intensity. Every possession, every adjustment, every rotation is being viewed through that lens. And when a team starts thinking that way, the margin for error naturally disappears. There's also a quiet confidence growing, not loud, not forced, but present. It comes from the way certain players are stepping into responsibility without hesitation, from how the team responds when something disrupts the expected flow. Those are the signs that don't always make headlines, but inside a locker room, they matter. Comment, this story is far from over if you think there is still another big chapter waiting for this team. And if you're following all of this closely, you already feel where this is heading. These are not isolated moments. They connect, they build, and they tend to lead into something that defines how a season is remembered. That's why staying ahead of these developments matters now more than ever. If you haven't locked in yet, this is the moment to do it. Because when the shift fully reveals itself, it won't come with a warning. Make sure you're subscribed and ready, because what's coming next around this team is already in motion, and missing it means losing the full picture as it unfolds. If you're part of Lakers Nation and you want to follow every chapter of this team's story, subscribe now. And as everything tightens, the real measure of this group won't be found in comfortable stretches, but in how they respond when nothing comes easy. That's where identity stops being a concept and starts showing up in real time, possession after possession, with no margin left to adjust later. There's a sense that something is about to be revealed about this team, not through words, but through how they handle what's right in front of them. And when that moment arrives, it usually separates those who are ready from those who are still figuring it out. Right? The Lake Show lives on. If you feel this franchise still has more to prove, stay connected, because the next updates won't just be news, they'll be defining pieces of what this season is becoming. Subscribe now and don't miss what's about to unfold with the Lakers.